Heroes. Let's talk about this one. This one is gonna be a little weird. I feel like this is one of those games that like I have memories of watching my brother play it many moons ago, but I never actually got my own mitts on it until now. This game was re-released along with its sequel on the Nintendo Switch a few years back, and I picked it up, never got around to it. Finally have done so for this challenge, but did it really meet the expectations that I had for it? That's a tough call, because the thing is, I do like the game at its core. At an absolute base level, I think this game does what it sets out to do. It sets up a funny story, interesting characters, and fun gameplay. My main problem is that is surrounded by wasting time. It feels like they built the basic foundation of the game. You fight these 10 bosses, and that's the game. Much like Shadow of the Colossus or the indie game Fury, there are other games that have done something similar. But one thing I noticed about No More Heroes was it felt like they didn't think that was enough. So the game has a lot of other meat that is, funnily enough, should be the side aspects of the game, right? It's grinding missions to get money, which you need to then continue the main campaign, fighting all the bosses. Also, there are other things like cosmetics, weapon upgrades, things like that you can use your money for, but everything that costs money is expensive, so you really have to get that money. Now, you do get money from fighting the bosses, but it's never quite enough to move on to the next boss, meaning you do have to do some of the missions. Now, at first, it's not so bad. When you only have to do 1 or 2 missions between a boss fight, it really isn't that bad. It's a nice changing of the pace. It's not too, monotonous or same old, but as you get further in the game, you really have to grind, especially once you start making the decisions of, I want to upgrade my weapon. And based on the research we did on my Twitch stream, which is twitch.tv/Simeonian, if you're interested, I play all the games of the 50 game challenge on there every Friday. We found out that in order to get the true ending, you have to actually buy all of the weapons in the game, which seems really weird. I mean, it's not like hard. I mean, it would just be a matter of grinding money, which again is not difficult. It's just monotonous. But if that's the case, and it's not like doing a bunch of side things, I don't know, that seems weird. Anyway, I didn't bother with that. I just did the main game, played through all the ranks, beat the final rank, and got the credits. And I call it there. As far as what I think about the game, I mean, like I said, I like the basic gameplay. Some of the bosses are more frustrating than others, but it's never really because of a difficulty. There were some bosses, maybe 3 total, that were actually like hard. Like, it's difficult. You really have to dodge and weave while getting the strikes in, but not taking much damage. But more often than not, the bosses I found to be frustrating because they give these weird scenarios, like the rank 2 boss, the second to last boss I fought, is not hard. She doesn't hit hard. It's not like she's a big pain in the ass, except for the fact that she would just give you a very short window of time that you could attack her. And in between that, she would just do these things that would cause you not to be able to do any damage to her whatsoever. So my problem was I'm just constantly waiting around to be able to hit her, and then, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff just drags out the gameplay for something that did not need to be the case. This game took me about 11 hours to beat. I think that was totally unnecessary. I think 7-8 hours would have been totally fine. And I think the rest of that time was just grinding. I mean, there was one day that I spent literally the entire time I played the game was just grinding money because I wanted the better weapon, or I wanted a part for the weapon, or I wanted, to train and make myself stronger, which you can do. Or God forbid, if I ever wanted any cosmetic changes, I mean, I didn't even bother with that because it was just a pain in the ass to just grind the money anyway. I think it's one of those mentalities where, this was a 2006, 2007 game whenever it came out, and they just wanted to pad the gameplay to make it more like it was worth it. I think back then it was a little more feasible that if a game was only 8 hours, people didn't deem it worthy of $50. Whereas nowadays, I feel like that is totally not the opinion. I mean, there are definitely people, I'm sure, that only want to buy 40-hour games, but I also think it's much more feasible and acceptable now to release a shorter game that has all the right elements and delivers on every front, rather than having to waste your time or, ask you to run around town for a couple hours to grind money just to do it. It's like an RPG from the 90s, but in a Wii game that was re-released on Switch. Anyway, I like No More Heroes. I hope to one day play the sequel. Not going to be this year, but it's tough. It's one of those games where it's like, when it's all said and done, I enjoyed it, but like throughout the playing of it, it didn't sit well with me. So, I don't really know how to give my final thoughts on this one. It's like, I liked it. I don't know that I would recommend it. Maybe the sequels are better. I'll find out one day. But anyway, next time we'll be back with number 29, a brand new game that just came out this year. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. Sayonara.